Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all with a very big heart. Today, we are going to learn about modern period in India. Let's do a quick recap. We discussed about the medieval period. We learned that Qutbuddin Aibak founded a new empire called Delhi Sultanate. The Mughal Empire was founded by Babur. Akbar was the greatest Mughal ruler. Shah Jahan built the famous monument Taj Mahal. Aurangzeb was the last important ruler of the Mughal dynasty. Let's do a quick time travel to the past and see what led to the British invasion and how they ended up ruling our country. India was a very rich country and famous for its spices, gold, pearls, and silk. These all attracted invaders from different parts of the world. Aurangzeb's death in 1707 CE marked the beginning of the modern period in Indian history. During the Mughal period, many European trading companies had started coming to India. They were followed by the Portuguese, the French, the Dutch, and the British. Finally, the British defeated others and formed the East India Company, also called the English East India Company, in 1600 CE for trading in India with the permission of Queen Elizabeth I. The company also got permission from the Mughal Emperor Jahangir to trade in India. They made various trading centers in western and eastern coast, and for some time they concentrated only on trading. The Mughal Empire began declining, so the Britishers took advantage of the constant fights between the kingdoms and started gaining control over India. First, they wanted to bring Bengal under their control because it was the richest province in the country. This was the reason behind the Battle of Plassey. On 23rd June 1757 CE, the British defeated Siraj-ud-Dawla, the Nawab of Bengal, in this battle, and they gained control over Bengal. Finally, they became very powerful in Bengal, and in the next 100 years they extended their control in India. The Britishers came to India as traders, but soon became the masters of the whole country. There were many changes under the British rule. The British brought new ideas to our country. They built roads and railway lines. The people of India were unhappy with the harsh rule of the Britishers because Indians were not allowed to make their choices and they were living in poverty. And thus, in 1857, they all rose together in a revolt. Revolt means to take violent action against a ruler. In 1857, there was a great revolt against the British. It was also known as the First War of Independence. The revolt of 1857 brought an end to the rule of English East India Company in India. It was an important historical event because India was brought under the direct rule of the British after the revolt. The 1857 revolt was entirely crushed by the British. The British government took over the administration of India. The Indians realized the need to unite in their fight for freedom. Many educated Indians like W. C. Banerjee, Dadabhai Naroji, and Gopal Krishna Gokhale formed political organization to free India from the British rule. Some Englishmen also supported these educated Indians in forming associations, and thus the Indian National Congress (INC) was founded by A.O. Hume, a retired ICS officer. Some of the important leaders of the Congress were Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, Subhash Chandra Bose, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, and Vallabhbhai Patel. Gandhiji led the national freedom struggle against the British rule. He showed a new path to the freedom struggle through truth, non-violence, and satyagraha. Non-violence means peaceful methods. Gandhiji used peaceful methods to bring about political or social change. Satyagraha. The word satyagraha is from the Sanskrit word satya, meaning truth, and agra means holding firmly. On the platform of National Congress, Mahatma Gandhi opposed the British policies through non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, and the Quit India movement. You will study about this in detail in class 5. After a lot of struggle and loss of many lives, India finally became an independent country on 15th August 1947. Children, let's revise what we learned in this session. The natural wealth of India has always attracted invaders from different parts of the world. The English East India Company was formed in 1600 CE. The first stage of the British conquest of India was marked by the Battle of Plassey in 1757. The revolt of 1857 is also known as the First War of Independence. The Indian National Congress was established in 1885. India became independent on 15th August 1947. Now, let's watch a video.
It is the birthplace of one of the oldest religions and is rising rapidly to become a world force in trade and commerce. From ancient monuments and lavish palaces, from great wealth to poverty, a country that has witnessed a turbulent history of war, famine, and extremes of weather. This is the history of India. In the region, meanwhile, the Portuguese, Dutch, Danish, French, and English had gradually established several forts and trading posts along the Indian coastline. The English East India Company was founded in 1600 but gathered greater power within India because of a private army and an imposing navy who gradually overwhelmed their European competitors. In 1757, the East India Company, under the leadership of Robert Clive, won victory against the Nawab of Bengal, which consolidated the company's power. Robert Clive amassed a personal fortune, but his actions and atrocities led to the deaths of millions of people, as he enforced the cultivation of non-food crops, which resulted in extreme famine. In 1760, the company had asserted control over a vast quantity of the subcontinent through direct control or tributaries. They continued to expand over the following decades. They encountered resistance from the Sikhs, who had established an empire in the Punjab region. After the death of their Sikh leader, the empire was weakened by internal division, which enabled the British to conquer them following the Anglo-Sikh Wars. The East India Company managed to rule India due to large naval vessels, the introduction of steam trains, and the use of more advanced weapons. The British population was nowhere near the same size as India, so the British employed Indian infantry called sepoys, who were under the command of British officers. The sepoys were not treated well, receiving low pay, and were enforced to fight abroad. This fueled frustrations, but there were further upsets when the British banned child marriage and outlawed slavery, which were part of an Indian culture at the time. A rebellion began when the sepoys were issued with ammunition coated in pig and beef fat, which they refused to use and deeply offended them, and they, amongst others, mutinied. The rebellion and mutiny failed, largely because there was little shared identity between Indians, and in 1857 the British Crown took direct. Over 1 million Indians saw combat on the Western Front, the Mesopotamian Campaign, East Africa, Egypt, and Gallipoli, claiming the lives of 75,000 people. Shortly after the end of World War I, Gandhi, amongst other leaders, led Indians to challenge the British for independence, and during World War II, he called for the British to quit India. However, during World War II, as part of the Allied nations, over 2.5 million Indians volunteered to fight. In 1947, Britain granted independence.
After 200 years of British rule, India finally became a free nation. With this, we completed the chapter Our History. That's all. Take care, children.